Hey everyone, my name is Austin, and I'm so glad that you decided to watch our River Valley Rogue River sermon. We are a church located in the beautiful city of Rogue River, and we would love to connect with any and all of you. One of the best ways you can do that is by joining our Facebook page. You can type in River Valley Rogue River, and you can join our page. Another way to do that is by sending direct emails. If you want to be in contact, if you need any prayer, make sure to reach out. We would love to get in contact with you. We hope that this sermon blesses you. Have a great rest of your day.
Well, good morning. How you guys doing? Good. Well, welcome to River Valley Rogue River. And if you're joining us kind of for the first time, we are in the last message of our core value series. And I will say, I'm going to miss that jingle at the beginning, right? That intro video. I think it sets the tone for the message. It's nice and upbeat. So I'm going to miss that. But we are in our ninth core value. Real quick trivia. Who could name all 9 of our core values right now? Austin could. Oh, yeah. I'm like, all right, yeah. I'm thinking, and just me being transparent, if you gave me like a piece of paper, 3 minutes, and a list of all the values, I think I could come up with all the values, but I'll probably miss a few. But this has been a great series, and so here we are, invite and include. And our big idea for this idea of invite and include, which I think it's fitting that we end our core value, what we're about, we end with this. Our big idea is this: we are a church for the sake of others, always looking to introduce people to Jesus and invite them into our church and our circles. This, in my opinion, is a core value where I think it's very easy in principle, but very hard in practice. Right? Really easy to understand. Invite and include. I get it. Create an environment that's great for people, and then we want to invite them. But it's pretty hard in practice. I know for me, I really like what I have, right? I like the community that Rach and I have around us, maybe that we've helped create. And the idea of bringing others into that can kind of be scary. And I just want to say that's a bad way to think, right? That's not an effective way to think. And the idea is like, if you have something great, why not invite people into it? And so I was thinking about this, and when a lot of churches, unfortunately, churches can talk about this idea of inviting others pretty negatively. I think we focus a lot. If you know me, you know I like illustrations, some good, some bad. And you think of the idea of a fisherman, right? I think a lot of churches might focus on the rod or the bait that you're using or the technique, but I think what we as River Valley want to focus on is the heart of the fisherman, right? The heart and the mind of the fisherman. So that's where we're at today. And our big idea mentions church and circles. So I just want to clarify, when I say church and circles, I'm thinking of kind of 4 things. Your home. So as a family, your home. Is it an inviting culture? Your social circle, your group of friends, right? Is it kind of a us 4, no more, holy huddle? Or are you open to others? Just your life in general. And then, obviously, Rogue River here, your church. So everything that I'm saying is kind of can be applied one way or another to those. Also, I feel like I got, left side and I got right side. Sorry, right side. If I really focus on the left side, this is where the critical mass is at. So, critical mass is, wow, that sounded weird. Okay. All right, so we're looking at the idea of invite and include. I'm sorry. We're going to look at 3 things. Who are we inviting people to? Okay, why do we exclude and why do we include? 3 things that we're looking at. So the first one is who we are, what are we inviting people to in the first place? It's good to take an inventory of what we have. It doesn't hurt to stop and think, is this a place that people would want to go to? Is this a place that I want to invite people into? Like, is this a healthy environment? Many years ago, back when we were kind of first starting dating, we were part of a Bible study, and we were part of the leadership team. And it was about, 15 people. And it was one of those situations where you go, all right, you invite people to. But there was this season where there was some drama, right? So basically it was like a breakup and a shakeup. There was a guy and a girl, and they broke up, and another girl in the group started liking the guy. Here's the wild part. None of them left the group, right? None of them left. They're still there. So, factions are starting to form. There's, very passive remarks, and I'm like, sweet, we're on an episode of The Bachelor. This is great. But I remember we stopped and thought, this is such a toxic environment. I literally wouldn't want to invite somebody to it. And that fear of somebody like coming in and maybe they're not really a Christian and they see all this happening, the cattiness, and they can just feel it and they're like, this is exactly what I thought church people were like. Thanks for confirming. Right? But that was a fear of mine. And so we didn't. We stopped inviting people temporarily. And I was like, we're gonna hold off on that. But we took some time as a group, as a leadership. We focused on it. We worked on that environment. And it wasn't just us, it was everybody. And it got resolved. And that group ended up blossoming and growing and being a really cool ministry. But it took that time to be like, oh, we got to hold up. There's some unhealthy stuff going on in here. So that's kind of that life group kind of focus. But for the church aspect, it's Tawny, myself, Austin's. It's our greatest heart's desire. That answer is like, is this somewhere I want to invite people to? Our heart's desire is yes. Yes, this is. That is our goal. We were kind of talking about it this week. Our expectation of you guys as our church family is that you are inviting people to church. Now, your expectation of us should be that we are doing everything we can to make this a healthy, fun, growing environment. So there's expectation on both ends. So is this a healthy place? And I'm reminded of Romans 12 when I think of this, and I hope Rogue River is living this out. If you've been with us for a while, we went through Romans, and verses 9 through 13 really stuck on my heart. So I'm going to read that to you guys now. Feel free to follow along if you'd like. It says, don't just pretend to love others. Really love them. Hate what is wrong. Hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection. Take delight in honoring each other. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident home, but be patient in trouble and keep praying. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Always be eager to practice hospitality. So that's something that I hope represents Rogue River, River Valley Rogue River here. And I hope that we are living that out. So I'm going to talk about 3 things that I want people to feel personally when they come to our church or even our home and our circles. This first one is this idea, and I believe your notes are just 4 blank spaces, so take what you want, right? It's a family, right? We hope that Rogue River feels like a family. For some of us, though, thinking of your family is not like the best. It's almost a trigger, right? You're like, I do not want my church looking like my family. But we hope that Rogue River here can be that family that maybe some of us haven't had. And cool things about family, all shapes, size, colors, and types, right? We want to be a church of married people, single people, dating, pregnant, parents, not parents, all sorts. We want to be welcome here in our church family. And when I think of a family, I think of a family is where there can be trust, right? Where you can trust, where you can be you, a family that will love you, a family that identifies your strength, a family that will help you work on your weaknesses. And for me personally, a family that really loves you even with all your quirks, right? Like we all have those things where it's like, that was weird, but a family that's still gonna love you for that. And I know for Rachel and I, we have that. Like we have friends that are more like family to us. And we have church family that's more like real family to us. So that's what we want Rogue River to feel like, is a family. The second thing is a support system. And this has been huge. It's a people that will just actively help me reach my goals. And I've noticed something, there's people in my life, right? There's even people here at Rogue River, there's people in my life that when you share that you need help with something, that becomes their priority. And an example is, I'll walk up to somebody. I'm not a car guy. I mean, I know cars do things. I know there are certain parts of cars, but I'm not a car guy. And so I'll make a comment just, hey, my truck makes a weird noise when I turn it on. And so if somebody said that to me, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm really sorry. That's a bummer. But there's people that'll be like, oh, really? Well, let's go ahead, pop the hood, turn your car on. And I'm just like, now? Like, we're in the middle of church right now, but that's just like, hey, let's deal with it right now. And I'm just blown away by those people that are like, hey, I got stuff going on, but you just mentioned you need to have a need, so let's address that need. And I'm just like, awesome. Now I have to be tempted to not manipulate the situation and just always share my needs around those people. But I hope we're like that in our life as well. Right? So it's like you need prayer? Let's pray right now. Oh, you need accountability. I'm going to be that accountability person. Right? You need a job? I'm going to help you actively look for a job. Or the tough one, oh, you're lazy? I'm going to help you get off your butt and not be lazy, right? Those people that are supporting us and helping us grow. So that's what another thing that I hope Rogue River, just our church family in general, can be. And the last one is this idea of encouragement. I hope people are encouraged when they come here to Rogue River. And if you're a Christian, if you're a believer, which I think most of us here are, like, I'm reminded, man, we believe in an almighty, powerful God, right? So this God's bigger than my problems. He's bigger than my fears. A God who is control when I don't feel in control. So like a God who's God in 2020, basically, right? And that brings me so much joy in my life, and I'm hoping that we as a church are just letting that radiate through us as a church family. We want to be a family, a circle that reminds people at all times that there is hope, even when they feel like there is none. And this is something I learned probably in my early 20s. Encouragement and flattery are not the same thing, right? So flattery, telling people nice things about them to make them feel better about themselves, like that is not encouragement. There's some times where, let's say somebody makes a mistake at work and they get fired, or they say something rude to somebody and they get fired, and they come back to you and you're like, oh, you're great, they're terrible, you keep doing you, you're the best version of you. It's like, no. You're telling that person lies. Like, here's the deal. You said something you shouldn't, and you got a consequence. So let's work on not doing that again, right? So flattering somebody just to make them feel better, you're setting them up for more trouble, right? But that idea of like encouraging them, like, all right, we got stuff to work on. Because to encourage means to build up. Now, again, I'm not a car guy, I'm not a builder guy, but there's some hard aspects of building, right? There are some hard things about building something up, but it is so worth it. So we hope, again, to be a place of encouragement. So that's taking inventory, but now I want to look at two things, right? The failure of exclusion, okay, the negatives to excluding people, and the power of inclusion. So we're going to start with the failure of exclusion, and I want to make a disclaimer. I think there's a few of them throughout here. There is value in having discernment and inviting people. I'm not saying let's get willy-nilly and invite everybody to everything all the time. That is not good. For example, if I'm throwing a birthday party for Austin, I should have discernment in who to invite. I shouldn't invite somebody that actively hates Austin. I don't know if that person exists, but that's not wise. I'm going to get WWE going on in here if I invite that person. There should be discernment. So I'm not saying let's just get reckless with inviting. But what I'm saying, and keep in mind, I'm saying this to me, right? I'm talking to myself with this part. What we need to do is let's stop making excuses for why we aren't inviting people and why we're not living out the Great Commission that Austin talked about last week. Like, I'm talking to the me who's too afraid to invite my friend to church because I might get a no from them. Right? I'm talking to the me who's afraid of inviting somebody to my fantastic friend circle because of the awkward, tough discussions they might have. Or I'm the me that's afraid to invite the person who's isolated because of the work I might have to put into that relationship. Like, that's the me I'm talking to. Like, listen, those are poor excuses. We have to get past that. And I apologize if this is egocentric, but what I did is I looked at the 3 reasons why I don't invite people, and that's kind of what I'm going to share in this part, hoping that maybe you guys relate to them. And if you don't, then congratulations, you are far better people than me. So this first one we're going to look at, kind of why do we exclude? The failure of exclusion, fear. And I kind of just touched on that. This might be one of the most common one, but have you ever thought, I want to ask them something, but I'm afraid they might say no. I'm afraid they might ask questions I don't know the answer to. This is a big one. I want to invite somebody to fill in the blank, but they might make me look bad. Right? I've had that one before, so I'm going to leave them over there. So those are fears that we battle. But do you guys remember the Great Commission, one of the last things Jesus says, it's almost like he was ready for what the disciples were going to say to him. He says, I am with you even to the end of the age. It's like he was prepared to say, I am with you, and someone says, but what about? He's like, no, even until the end of the age. So here's the deal. There are things that are, I would say, maybe worth being afraid of. There are scary things out there. There are things that are hard, that are tough, that are scary. And Jesus didn't say, hey, ignore those, they're not real. He just said, hey, you're not doing this alone. And I got this, like I am here with you. So we exclude people out of fear of people. But the Lord created us to be relational, right? He created us to have relationships. And he doubled down on that when he decided, I'm going to enter into a relationship with you and with those people. So yeah, is fear real? Yes, but you can't let it control you because I am with you, Jesus says. So that's the first one. Another one is selfishness. Okay, a big one for me. And as I've said this before, and you probably disagree with me, I kind of hope you do, but I think Rach and I have the best community of friends, right? The people we get to call friends. I think we have the best life group. I think we have the best church. Like, I'm just convinced we are so blessed by our community. I just think we have the best in everything. Yeah, well, no, it's because it was all given to me. Like, I didn't do anything about it, but I hope that you guys say the same thing about your circles as well. But with that, I'm afraid sometimes to add somebody into that because I'm sitting here thinking, what if they change everything? It's such a selfish point of view. And basically what I'm doing is I'm letting my weird thought about possible negative outcomes just completely cloud the possibility of all the good outcomes. Like, if I think I have such a great community, why wouldn't I want people who are isolated or alone? Why wouldn't I want them to experience that, right? Like, there's a reason I think they're so good, and it's not anything I did, right? So I get selfish. I'm like, no. This is me. You go find your own friends, right? So selfishness. And again, there's discernment. There's understanding that there might be unsafe people that are just not good for certain environments. I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but a lot of times I'm making excuses under the name of discernment. And the last kind of the failure of exclusion, this idea of insecurity. I'm reminded in Scripture in John 8, where it refers to Satan as the father of lies. His number one weapon, his bread and butter is deceit and manipulation. So what I have realized in community is when you're forming community, don't be surprised if Satan tries to take down that community from within. Right? He's like, I can try externally to, people coming in and destroying it, but if I can take it down from within, if I can destroy the core, then I've done it. So you're building community, and you might not invite people because you're like, well, what if I'm not good enough? Or what if the person I bring in is liked more than me, right? Like, what if they actually experience my community? We start having all these insecure thoughts, and for me, that paralyzes me. Right? I stopped doing stuff. I just kind of like literally when it comes to my evangelism, I'm just like this. I'm just not doing anything. Stagnant water. And I realized these are lies I tell myself when I think that God's love is conditional. This is a lie I tell myself when I think God's love is like a jug of water where it'll eventually run out and not like a flowing stream of life. Right? And I'm reminded that, man, God loves me more than I can imagine. And he's got enough to go around, and he's going to love others more than they can imagine. It's not like, we kicked the bucket, like we're out of God's love. Sorry, guys, fend for yourselves. No, there's a flowing stream. There is enough for me. There's enough for Rachel. There's enough for anybody that we are able to bring in. So those lies that we tell ourselves, they're not true. So that is the failure of exclusion. But I want to look at the idea of the power of inclusion. And real quick, I want to take a look at just kind of the animal world, right? The animal kingdom. And I think I'm really just doing this to pull on the cute animal heartstrings. But if you've ever looked up, I don't know why you would, like unlikely animal friendships, right? So just animals from different walks of life. And I think this can actually teach us something. Like animals have been doing this. So I have a few. Sorry, if you want to throw that first one up. So this is Bubbles the elephant and Bella the dog. Now here's the cool thing. So this is they're in a rehab center, and I believe if I'm not mistaken, the dog was left there by somebody that created kind of the pen, and these two just formed a great relationship. Here's the best part: the elephant will throw the ball for the dog, play fetch with it, and the dog will get it and bring it back. So that's Bubbles and Bella. Again, different geographical settings, different size, different shape, different mentality, but they're best friends, right? Because they love each other. All right, we got another one. So this one's kind of cool too. So this is, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Anjana the chimp and some tiger cubs. So another rehab center, the tiger cubs came in and she kind of became their surrogate mother to the point where they even got older. Just kind of, your mom's not here, so I'm going to assume that role. Again, predators, not predators, different walks of life coming together to be family. And this next one, the last one, actually it was pretty famous. They called him, there should be one more up there, the BLT. So This was Shere Khan, Baloo, and Leo. The picture's not the best. It's a bear, a tiger, and a lion. Natural predators. So they were all rescued from the same house. Some crazy dude had all these illegal animals in a house, and they were all rescued and raised together from cubs to now. Now, unfortunately, I think they were together 11 to 15 years. 2 of them have now since passed. If I'm not mistaken, the bear is the one that's still alive, and it says the bear was present when both of the other animals passed. The bear was present at their funeral, which that might have just been their trainers bringing them. But the bear was next to them, or the one that's still alive, till the very end. I'm like, wow, natural predators. Like if you're ever thinking, let's have animal fights, you're thinking of having these 3 together. But they're here together. And again, they're animals, but still, they have this natural tendency to go a certain way, but they're able to look past that. And they were like, wow, we were raised together through some trauma, and here we are being best friends. So I'm like, all right, if animals can do it, like we can do this too. So that's the power of inclusion. Why do we include? And I have a few points. And the first one is this. People need a doctor. And people need a doctor. So Jesus was in conversation with some religious leaders, and they question why he is sitting with the lowest of the lows, the outcasts. They literally, some translations say scum. Right? And so for back then, it was the sinners and the tax collectors. Tax collectors were scum. But I know a lot of us, unfortunately, there are other people that maybe we would deem socially repellent, right? And to everyone else, that is different. You might just kind of be repulsed towards a certain person for no good, irrational reason. And so they say, Jesus, why are you a rabbi? Like, why are you sitting with that scum? And he responds in Mark 2, and he says, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. I've come to call not those who think they are righteous, you religious leaders, right? But those who know that they are sinners. So he's like, listen, I'm here for people that understand that they are sick. And so I really want to make a disclaimer. Again, most of you guys here, you know me, you know our hearts. But for anybody that maybe doesn't, like, we are not the doctor, right? Whoever's up here teaching is not the doctor. Austin's not a doctor. I'm not the doctor, right? We know the doctor. The doctor is the good Lord, and we have just experienced the healing from the doctor. Now, I had a conversation with somebody recently who unfortunately is starting to kind of question what they believe because they've gone to different churches and they've just realized, man, there are Christians out there that just kind of have this arrogance of like, we have it all and other people don't. And they kind of look down at people as projects because they don't have what we have. And that's really sad, especially the arrogance word, because the fact of the matter, if you're a Christian, you do have something that others don't, but that something is grace, that something is mercy, that something is love. And it's a shame when we come across as like arrogance that, hey, I did all this and I'm here. Like we do have it all. It's just that all is grace and mercy, right? So again, people need a doctor, and we have a relationship with the doctor that can heal us in a way that no one else can. And what I want us to get across is like, all right, we are, like I am broken. I am broken beyond what I thought was repair until I entered into a relationship with the healer. So again, with a relationship to a God like that, why would we want to keep it to ourselves? Like we don't have copyrights on God, right? Like God is mine, he is not yours. We don't have copyrights on him. It's almost to a point like we should be begging people to come to know the Lord. So again, Jesus is for the sick. And as a disclaimer, like I'm saying we were sick as well. And we just have experienced his healing. Next thing, why do we include? People need mercy. Jesus is telling the story of the Good Samaritan, maybe a story that you guys have heard. A Jewish man was beat up on the road by muggers, and a priest and a temple assistant both walk by without any aid whatsoever, right? So to a degree, you could almost be like, all right, somebody gets beat up. Austin walks by, and I walk by. But then somebody who's considered a public enemy of the man that was beat up comes and takes care of this Jewish person. So Jesus is asking the audience, all right, who's the one that is considered the neighbor, right? Who's the one that's considered the neighbor? The one who showed him mercy. And Jesus says, yes, now you go do the same. So why do people need to be included? Because people need mercy. And you might notice a trend with these two. I'm hoping this trend that follows 1 John 4:19, right? We love because he first loved us, right? So why do we show mercy? Why do we have the opportunity to show mercy? It's because we were shown mercy. I was shown a great amount of mercy. So being transparent, and I don't think I've shared this story here before. When I was a kid, all right, I was 10 years old, so start with that. I was 10, so don't hold this against me, right? I was at a daycare, and I was kind of one of the older kids, and me and this other friend, he was a little younger, we had this probably 6 or 7-year-old that would follow us around. And we're like, go away. But she wouldn't because, I don't know, we were the cool old kids. So we're like, all right, I know what we're going to do. We're going to pretend to be her friend. So we would push her on the swing. You see, when I would grab the swing and pull her back, she was like, this is the greatest. I would pinch her arm right here, right, the sweet spot. And so, again, I was 10. It was so long ago. I would pinch her. So she would start crying. And so, my friend and I would be like, oh, she must hate the swing. It's not me, right? And she would not be able to communicate what's happening. And so she would cry. And so we would do that for a little bit. We're like, haha, you want to hang out with us? Well, we're going to kind of pinch you. Well, yeah, okay, again, being transparent. So, okay, all right. I'm like, and that's the end of the story, moving on. No. But one day, the guilt overcame me. I felt so convicted about what I did. So I went and told the daycare worker. I took my friend down with me. I'm not riding this one solo. We both did this. Pretty sure it was my idea. So here it is. So the daycare worker says, well, all right, I'm going to ask you to do something. And I said, all right, I can apologize to the girl. She said, no, I want you to tell the girl's mom. And I was like, can't you do that, right? So I did, and I was so afraid. I told the mom, I said, here's what we were doing, here's the plan. Maybe at this point I said it was my friend's idea. I don't know, but I confessed. And that mom could have thrown the book. That mom could have told the daycare worker, I don't want this kid around my kid. Whatever punishment you have, do it. But the mom did one thing, and it showed me mercy. The mom said, I really appreciate you having the courage to confess that to me. That's not easy, right? I really appreciate you. It sounds like you have learned your lesson. She showed mercy. And as a 10-year-old, I have a bad memory, but I still remember that to this day. And that is where that mom, that daycare, that environment became a healthy, safe place where I was growing because I experienced mercy in a way where I didn't need it. So again, people need mercy. And from then on, I looked at people as not as people that were doing me wrong or people that need punishment, but I looked at, all right, where is an opportunity for mercy? Because I have been given mercy. So why do we include? Because of what we were given. We were given God's grace. We were given God's mercy. We were given God's love. So that's the power of inclusion. But now as we finish up kind of this message, this series, I want to look at what it means to kind of, the go part of our mission, our Connect, Grow, Go. And that's the importance of action. So some quick how-to. How do we include? I want to look at the practical side. And one thing I want to say is that sometimes hastiness can ruin kind of the heart behind inviting. Some of these things do take time. And we can be so quick. We need to do this now, right? We throw mass invites to everybody where maybe they just weren't ready. And we ruin that opportunity. So there is a balance between allowing some time and then waiting too long. For me, I err on the side of waiting too long, right? I'm like, oh, when they're ready, we'll ask them 2 years later. When they're, okay. So there is that balance. But 3 things I want to talk about. 1, creating relationship. There is this place for random invites, but it's a lot easier to invite somebody if the person trusts you. And what I'm talking about is those people that are a part of your life, but maybe they're not fully in your life. So you got coworkers, right? Maybe those friends, they're not your core, but they still are your friends. Maybe neighbors, right? Creating relationships. And again, I'm not talking about just Rogue River. I'm talking about your home, right? Your social circle. Now, if you deem them as safe people for your home, for your kids, your home is a great spot to begin creating relationships. Because oftentimes, I think what we see in church growth is when members of the church family have created these safe places. They are safe people for people in their life. And then one day, on a random Tuesday or a random Thursday, that person finally asks, what's different about you? right? And that didn't happen because you've been like, all right, come to church with me, come to church. It's because you were being Jesus to that person. You're creating relationship with that person. So one way, just creating relationships and allowing the Holy Spirit to work in that. That's one way. The other one, though, and this is probably more of a personal application from me, but this idea of not pressuring, right? Don't pressure. Some of us, you've invited them over for dinner, and you're like, hey, do you like dinner? All right, you want to go to church with me? How about now? How about now? How about now? Right? And they kind of feel like they're being part of a pyramid scheme, right? Where they feel like your relationship is contingent on you saying yes to that invite. Right? Now, we don't want people to feel obligated being here. Like, I've never seen somebody like, I'm here at church because my friend is holding me at gunpoint, right? Like, that's not good. We want people to be curious about church, right? We want to be curious. But if they feel pressured, that's the moment walls start to go up. And I'm reminded that this church is not the only place where people can come to know the Lord. It can happen in your home. It can happen over the phone. It can happen in the car. It can happen with you. It can happen with us. Now, I think that we here at Rogue River, we have a great place to equip and encourage and send out. This is a great place, but it's not the only place. So again, if you can't get them to church, that is fine. Be church to them, and really cool things will happen. Sometimes we think the church is the only thing they need, but really the only thing they need is a friend right now, and you can be that to them. Lastly, again, something I learned is, and these might sound like they contradict, but I do just think there's discernment in a time or place. It's this idea of not being afraid to ask. And I know you just said, Tim, you said don't ask too quickly. Agreed, but on the other side of it, don't be afraid to ask. And this is something I learned specifically from Rachel. So she will ask, right? She says the worst thing they can say is no. And I learned this from her when she started teaching a few years ago. She asked all of her friends and family if they would volunteer in her class. Right? Some said no, some said yes. But here's the deal. When the school year started, Rachel had about 4 times the amount of volunteers that other teachers had. And other teachers were kind of jealous. They're like, why are you getting all the volunteers? Right? It's like, because I asked, right? Now, again, I'm not saying pressure, but there is value in putting that ask out there. There's kind of no problem with putting the feelers out there. And I'm not saying we're going to have a talk. Are you ready to go to church? But just letting them know, hey, I want you to know that I would love to invite you to church whenever you feel ready, and having that kind of that friendly reminder with them. Don't be afraid to ask, as long as I think you've kind of created and set up that relationship with them. So that is the importance of it. And I'm going to ask Rachel to come back up. And I want to wrap up, again, this core of values series. And at the end of the day, we have these 9 values for a reason. And it's not so that we are an established church or that we look like we have our act together. Our leadership team thought of these values for one reason, and that was that we as a church are pointing people to Jesus. Right? That is what defines us, reflecting Jesus at all times. If this church reflects Austin, no offense, big fail. If this church reflects me, no offense, super fail. But, right, imitate me as I imitate Christ. We hope that our church reflects the love of Jesus, because that is when the mercy, the safety, the environment is going to be somewhere people want to go, and it's going to be somewhere that we want to invite people to.